Namaskar. Team Hingori Sutras welcomes you to a conversation with Ms. Suchitra Pareekh on Vrittis. Each individual possesses an Atma within. The Atma is energy, which is in fact a part of the universal energy. To evolve spiritually, just as Hingori says, it is this energy and one's aura that must grow. As it grows, the intention is to connect to the core Atma within us, creating complete harmony of energy at every level. When the mind identifies with Vrittis, the ego sense takes ownership of the thoughts and everything they are about. These thought waves cause us to identify with the mind and ego sense, which are the delusionary aspect of our self-identification, Maya. They hide us from our true reality, the Atma, and superimpose on the consciousness of the Atma, leading us to a sustained delusion. To break the shackles of this delusion, it is imperative to understand Citta, Vritti, Nirodha. To help us understand this concept, we have with us Suchitra Pareekh. Suchitra ji is, as she is popularly known, is a very, very senior sadhak at the Yoga Institute Santa Cruz. She is an exponent of the Samkhya philosophy, one of the most important pillars of Indian philosophy. She is also an author, transformation coach, educationist, and practitioner of Samkhya Yoga emotional freedom technique, popularly known as EFT, which she is now christened to VCT, Vritti Changing Technique, by designing a special workshop to reach emotional freedom. She is also an expert in TAT and Ho'oponopono. She is a knowledge seeker, a teacher by study, practice, and interaction. Whatever learned, she experiences the benefits and then shares it, the knowledge, with her students. Recently, she has authored a book, Practical Samkhya, The Ultimate Solution to Pain. A very warm welcome to you, Suchitra ji. आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है.
Thank you. Very happy to be here and to share some thoughts, a little bit that I know on Vrittis. Yes, Vritti is the key focus in yoga. Maharshi Patanjali defines yoga as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Now, everyone who is into yoga has heard of this, know of this. And Nirodha means to stop. How to stop? When you have to stop something, you have to be in control of it. Yes? Let me share a few slides before I continue. Yes. We talk of Vritti. Where does Vritti happen? We have different ideas about it. But when we look at Sankhya, the key part where Vritti happens is that which is called as Buddhi. In yoga, we use the word Citta. And really speaking, our Citta is everything that you may have heard about Sri Ganesha. The first one, right? Buddhi is the first one, through which the entire universe gets created. So everything that we have known about what Ganesha does, happens in the buddhi. So keep this at the back of mind as we move forward. I don't think I need to wait on this slide. Anjali ji has already said a lot. Today, in the short time that we have together, I would like to give a little glimpse into what is this vritti and demonstrate to you, as Anjali ji rightly said, EFT now christened as VCT with a small amount of alteration and a large amount of change in application. And how can this vritti changing technique be done is also what I will share with you if time permits. Yes, my introduction to this vritti happened with this phrase: you are what you think. When I entered the gates of the Yoga Institute and I reached their office, at that time the founder was alive, and he used to have this put right at the reception desk. There was this plate which read, "You are what you think." Sri Yogendraji is the founder of the Yoga Institute, and he lived his life in this manner. Yoga is all about being able to change this, which happens in the mind. We commonly call it think. Let me first give you a brief meaning of what vritti is. Vritti is a Sanskrit word. That way, it does not belong to only yoga. Vritti is a common word in Sanskrit, which by and large refers to function of something, that which is being done by something, whatever uska vritti. So in yoga, we're talking about the mind. The English translation is mind for it. Not very accurate, but still mind. And in yoga, we call it chitta, which is much more than what is commonly understood as mind in either psychology or in English otherwise. So chitta vritti. Chitta vritti. Now, let's take it as mind, what we commonly understand, popular belief. Function of the mind. What all would you attribute to mind as what does it do? Probably we only will say it thinks. Some may probably also add that yes, it does do imagination. And I don't know how many of us will agree that it does the feeling. Very many people will say, no, the heart does the feeling. I'm just exploring. And so function of the mind. Chitta vritti is the way the mind functions or whatever the mind does. Okay. Now, why have I written this mental modification? Probably some of you might wonder. Chitta vritti. The way the mind function is, as understood in the philosophy, that the mind reaches out to the object and takes the form of the object, and that is what is presented to that first thing we talked of, the buddhi. And the buddhi is then able to decide as to what it is and what is to be done with it. So the chitta actually undergoes a change and takes the shape of whatever is being perceived, whatever is there that is received by the indriyas, the senses. Okay, so that's mental modification. But doesn't matter if mental modification is not grasped at this moment. Function of the mind, as we understand, let's say that is Chitta Vritti. And to perceive things, perception can be called the function of the mind then, right? Not just thinking, not just feeling, perception. Okay. So, yes, we discussed this. And so also the one example I can give for understanding how it works is like it takes the shape of whatever is there in front of it. If you put, so it is like flowing, it's flexible, it can change shape like water does. Yes, you put water in a glass, it will take the shape of a glass. You put water in an irregularly shaped vessel, it will take that shape. So the mind, whatever it reaches out to, it can take that shape. I want you to consider, think whether we consider this as mind or what is happening with the mind, the function of the mind. This is looking like an elephant, right? And how many legs do you see? Are we confused about the direction in which the elephant is standing? Or sometimes we're seeing it this way, sometimes we're seeing it that way. Why? What's happening? And what about these? Yeah, our emotions. Are they also part of the function of the mind? Examine it. Whatever is known and understood by you so far. Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. This is what we started the whole thing with. So we come to it full circle. Nirodha is to stop. And I began by telling you what can you stop, that which is under your control. So it has to be under your control. Ask yourself, are you able to access your mind? Do we know where the mind is? Do we know how to access it? For example, I'll tell you my dilemma that I was in. Before I go on to that, I want to close this slide. So, I can come back to this slide. I'll, for the time being, stop slide share. So, when I first came across this idea, it was while I was studying the Ashtang Yoga, Yamas and Niyamas. And Maharshi Patanjali, after talking about the first two steps of Eightfold Path, the Yamas and Niyamas, it talks about a concept called Pratipaksha Bhavna. And in Pratipaksha Bhavna, Maharshi Patanjali says that whenever you are faced with perverse thought here he is referring to thoughts which are opposite to Yamas and Niyamas. Yamas are ethical norms like ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha, that is non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-greed, and non-indulgence. And niyamas are things like salt, santosh, tapas, svadhyaya, ishwar pranidhan. That is physical and mental hygiene, contentment, and things like that. All very positive stuff, right? So opposite of this will be perverse. So Pratipaksha Bhavna says, whenever you're faced with the perverse thought, think of the opposite. So simply said, no. So I tried to apply. We at the Yoga Institute, when we are taught, we are never taught the theory so much. We are always first asked to use it in life right now. So I was a very, very temperamental person and would easily get angry, irritated, or even sob away when I could not. I felt helpless not being able to express that anger and all. So it was easy for me to want to put this into practice. I said, when I'm very angry at somebody has done something so terrible, I feel like slapping that person. How can I think of opposite? Say to love that person or like that person. I tried. I couldn't. My mind was so full of that anger or that irritation or that aversion that uh, it could not shift to the opposite. I said, how is this possible? But if Patanjali is saying, having to know and understand the background where the sutras are written, only if it is not negotiable, it's not refutable. So that must be possible. That's why it is being said. But I don't know how to do it. Believe it, I went all out to try and find out ways and means. Uh, Practice of yoga in terms of doing asana, some dhyana, some pranayama, which I was not very regular at. But whatever little bit I was practicing was helping. But at the same time, the help was not happening at the immediate time when I most needed it, as this Pratipaksha Bhavna was saying. It was happening at a generic level. By and large, I was getting under some kind of a control. I was becoming a little more calmer. I was able to sometimes see that, okay, this situation is going to make me angry, so I could refrain from it. But when I am angry to think of love, that was still beyond me. Until some 13 years ago, I came across this technique, emotional freedom technique, as I told you, on behest of my guru. And I went and shared this with him. I said, I had stuck the nail on the head in this technique. I know I can apply it and use it for yamas and niyamas. And ever since then, I have been applying it and using it, and in the process got modified a little because I am a teacher by profession. More than 45 years I've spent into school teaching. Then I moved to be a principal, and 6 years ago I retired as a principal. And I had a lot of people around me whom I could help. Sometimes my students, sometimes my colleagues, and at the Yoga Institute also I was teaching. So over there, anytime anybody had some such problem where I could offer and they were willing to receive, I would make them do this technique, and they were helped. And particularly those who were inclined towards yoga, and wherever I got an opportunity, I also did start teaching in my own yoga classes or some other yoga classes outside. So I would encourage them to try out this technique when they were faced with similar problem, like I said I was. There are situations when you just very spontaneously speak untruth. And we think it is perfectly all right to save the situation, we have to do it. But very often it's not to save the situation, it's to save our own skin. And that is, instead of changing ourselves, we try to change the situation outside, which is absolutely not done in yoga. In yoga, the change has to happen in you. So I understood that, and I tried to apply this, and I would try and teach this to my students. And I really got very good results every time. But only now, for me, the lockdown was very, very much like a boon. During this lockdown, I had retired also, and I'm at home attending to my super aged parents. So while keeping an eye on them, computer was available, people were available because of lockdown, they were at home. And I learned a little bit of technology, learned to use Zoom and all, and I started some classes and coaching online. Wanted to learn, so I taught them this technique also, and then I made them start applying it to yamas niyama. I proudly say that I have a group of students, and maybe they are here listening to me just now also. They have very, very successfully used this technique to become aware. In fact, all of them, two of them are not with much of yoga background, and others are from yoga background who already know otherwise yama niyamas and everything. They also said that truly this technique has made them become aware of the real nature of the yamas and niyamas, because otherwise we were understanding them at a superficial level. Now we know where we stand. Each of them are now in touch with their own self with respect to ahimsa or satya or asteya or brahmacharya. And even Patanjali says that ahimsa is the main one out of all the yamas. So if you have to follow satya or asteya, etc., you have to first follow ahimsa. And all of these are as if form of ahimsa. It's like the example normally given is like in a mark, a footprint of an elephant. The footprints of all other animals can fit in. The whole idea is that rest of the yamas are followed also automatically when you follow ahimsa, or when you are following the other yamas, you are also following ahimsa. Now, this statement was a theoretical statement for them until then. They actually started experiencing it. I want you to note experience. Yes. Let me share a few more slides and then we will do something. So, I want you to ask these questions to yourself. Which functions of the mind can you stop? Yes, the variety of functions that you can think of the mind. And if you think just thinking is the function of the mind, can you stop thinking at will? Ask yourself. And how successful can you be? How much time does it take you? How long does it take you? Are you only able to stop in certain situations and not in others? And so on and so forth. Or if you understand that mental modification is a function of the mind, can you stop the mind from getting modified into whatever the indriyas, the senses bring to it? And what do you think is the original nature of mind? Is the mind like a monkey originally? Is it like these ripples? Or the mind is steady, stable originally? It's like the quiet of the lake. Sorry. Let me introduce to you my most crucial, favorite slide. Cat is by and large a domestic animal, and a lion is a wild animal. We generally...
Suchitra, you can't see the slide.
You cannot see the slide?
No.
Now? Now
no,
also?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we cannot see it right now.
Okay, I'll end the show and restart the show, maybe, of the slides.
Maybe you need to share it.
Oh, it's not shared. Okay, possible.
Right.
Yeah, is this correct? Full screen, you can see the slide?
Yes, this is fine.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing it to my notice. So this is my most favorite slide, where cat is, we know, a domestic animal, and lion a wild animal. We are normally very friendly with our domestic animals and afraid of being with the wild animals. But if the cat is wild, you'll be not friendly with it. You will not go near it and tap pat it and caress it. And lion, if it is tamed, you will not mind even hugging it. Yes. This is what, if we can remember about our mind, it will be very helpful. Citta, Vritti, Nirodha. My question was, which of the Vritti can you control? However domestic it may appear, but if it is not under your control, it's bad. As I told you, I could not, in a certain situation, if I was angry, I was angry. I could not bring it down at that time. It took a long time and over a period of time and then quieted down. But then a lot of damage was done between that time. Otherwise, the worst of the emotions, if you know how to manage it, it's easy. Then you can handle it. You don't mind facing it. Yes, I will come to the slide after this. The Ashtang Yoga, the first two steps, Yama Niyama, are for emotional management. Why is a spiritual journey, which is what the entire Yoga Sutra is giving, all the variety of things that are that were prevalent at the time of Maharishi Patanjali, have been enumerated and listed and nicely structured in the Yoga Sutras. Ashtang Yoga is a complete journey in itself, from a common man's life to a high spiritual living. It begins with emotional management. Why? We live in three domains: cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. Cognitive is the thinking domain. Thinking, understanding, learning, which has been educated a little bit. हमने सबने BA CA किया है, right? We have studied a little bit. We have learned to use our brain. If you say that at this point of time, I want to think about writing material, you can make yourself think about it. If you want to pick up your mobile, you want to click your mouse, your hands will allow you to do it. You want to get up from your chair and walk up to the next room, you can do it. Your physical body does psychomotor. You have been educated and they will listen to you, right? What about feeling? If I ask you to have feeling of love just now, can you do it? Or have feeling of anger just now, can you just do it? No. That is why, to be truly educated, you need to be educated in all the three domains. This is exactly what I meant when I said the wild. Our emotional faculty, 1/3, and actually, if you ask me, my experience is it is 50%, more than 50%, because even the most well-thinking people, well-educated, highly intellectuals, they get under the grip of emotions. Knowing very, very well, one common example that I always want to give is the person who buys the packet of cigarette. He reads, cigarette smoking is injurious to health. It's written very clearly on the packet. And still what he does? He reads that and he still goes and smokes. Most people, they start smoking for overcoming certain emotional stress. Stress by itself is also emotion. I'm feeling stress. When you say the word feeling, it's about emotion. Yes. So often we use this word, mujhe laga ki. I felt that way. Things which I should use knowledge, I use feeling for. This shows that how affective domain is overpowering your cognitive and the psychomotor domain. So that is why even Patanjali begins, because he wants to bring about balance for us. He begins with emotional management first. So as I just shared with you that I found that this was excellent technique for I could manage my emotion, and therefore my journey in yoga was much more smoother since then. I would like to share this with you, and maybe you can do it with me. Anjali, I will need your help when we start to practice.
Yes,
okay?
Sure.
Fine. For the
Absolutely.
time being, I will just show you 2 more slides, 3 more slides maybe, so that you are ready as to what to do. As I told you, it is the tapping technique of EFT. But I will not sit to show you the difference between them, but straight away go into doing it. I just want you to become acquainted with some of the points where we will be tapping. Okay. Anjali ji, can you see me as well as the slide, or you can't see the slide as yet?
No, I
not the
cannot see
slide.
the slide. You need to
Okay,
share
one
the
second.
screen again.
I'll share the screen again. Yes. Now you can see both, right?
Yes, if you can just make it full screen, please. Yeah.
Yeah, it is full screen now.
Right.
Okay. So I want you to just get acquainted with some points. This is the first point. I will call this karate chop point. Okay. Because I'll describe the point as I go around. And this is the last point that I will talk about. That is the tender spot. There are 12 other points which we will use in this technique. And don't worry, I will make it a little more easier for you. But this is just to tell you, there are about 5 points on the face, beginning of eyebrows, end of eyes, below the nose, in the chin groove. Okay, that's how I will be describing it. I will do, and you will just imitate me. Okay, so do not worry to remember. The 6th point is below the collarbone. The 7th point is below the armpits, not in the armpits, but below the armpits. This is also not on the bone, but below the bone. And the 8th point is below the chest, that's in the lower ribs. Yes, the false ribs that are commonly called, but in front. The ribs extend to the back on the side also, but we will tap in the front portion of the lower ribs. Then there are 4 points on the fingers. The finger point is at the junction of nail and skin. We begin with the thumb, then we go on to the forefinger, then to the middle finger, and then the little finger. We leave out the ring finger for the time being. So I'll keep this slide on, or how should I do it? Or shall I be?
Yeah, with your video on.
Will be better, no?
The message. Yeah.
Fine. So, okay. Now, before we begin, we have to do a little bit of a test, pre and post. And the test is of breathing. As I said, the first thing to affect out of the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domain, which makes the experience in our life. So first is the emotion, because it overpowers everything. And you must have all known that your breathing is affected negatively and positively with negative and positive emotion. When you are angry, agitated, excited, your breathing is shallow and fast, jerky also. Whereas if you are quiet, calm, happy, peaceful, you've done nice meditation, then your breathing is also slow, smooth, and long. So, to be able to do a little test that whether this technique works for you, let us give some number to the kind of breathing that we are having just now. So if you can, just take a few seconds, maybe close your eyes if it helps, and watch your breathing and see whether the breathing is the best breathing that you have ever had. Is it equal to that just now? Or it is anything less? If it is the best of the best, give it 10 on 10. If it is a little less, give it 9 on 10. And definitely it cannot go down to, it can go down to 6, 7, 4, 3, 2 or 1. Can't be 0. We are all alive yet. So let's give it some number. What is the number of your breath? So note it down somewhere. When you have given yourself a number, I'll give you 5 seconds. And now, after doing the technique, we will again see if this number has shifted. If the number shifts, then the technique works for you. Okay. Now, next thing that we will do is that we have to be very honest in this technique. If we are dishonest, it will not work for us. So if you find it, at least for knowing purpose, do it still. Can I make a statement that my breathing is not very good? If you have still given yourself 10 on 10, do it for the sake of learning the technique, and we'll see whether it works for you or not. But do it definitely. So the statement will be, because most of you would have your numbers between 9 and maybe 2, 3 or something. My breathing is not very good is a statement that we will make as an acknowledgement that, okay, I am not breathing my very, very best. And then let's see how we proceed. One more thing before I begin the technique is the key statement of this technique. I deeply and completely love, forgive, and accept myself. You may repeat after me. I deeply, Anjali ji, I'll need your help.
I deeply
and completely love, forgive,
and accept
myself. Yes. Throughout the technique, try and see that you repeat after me only so that the rhythm is maintained. Some of you who are listening, and even if you know it, you have learned it, it's an easy sentence, but still say it in that rhythm. So with that pause and the repeating after me, so that your rhythm is maintained. So we are ready with this? Okay.
Yes.
We begin with the karate chop point. If you remember, I said this is the first point. The karate chop point you can find on the little finger edge of your palm. Yes. Close to the wrist. Using the tips of the first 2 fingers. Whichever hand you use, it's okay. Even if you change the hand in between, it's fine. Okay. So begin with this, and you will repeat after me, no, Anjali?
Yeah, sure.
So do as I do and say as I say. Even though I'm not breathing very well. I deeply and completely love, forgive, and accept myself. You like the statement?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll repeat this 2 more times. Even though I'm not breathing very well. I deeply and completely love, forgive, and accept myself.
even though
I'm not breathing very well.
I'm not breathing very well,
I deeply and completely
love,
forgive,
forgive,
and accept myself.
and accept myself.
Now we tap the beginning of eyebrow point. And say, not breathing very well.
Even though I'm not
No,
breathing
only say,
very well.
not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
Correct. Now tap at the end of eyes and say, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
Similarly, we'll keep tapping each point and repeat this phrase. Below the eyes, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
Below the nose, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
In the chin groove, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
Below the collarbone, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
Below the armpits, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
On the lower ribs in front, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
At the junction of nail and skin on the side of the thumb, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
At the junction of nail and skin on the side of the forefinger, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
At the junction of nail and skin on the side of the middle finger, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
Tap similar point on the little finger and say, not breathing very well.
Not breathing very well.
Come back to karate chop. Still.
Not breathing very well.
Say still.
Still. Okay.
I deeply and completely.
Still, I deeply and completely
Love, forgive, and accept myself.
And accept myself.
I choose to breathe slow, smooth, and long. And I deeply and completely
love,
forgive,
forgive,
and accept myself.
and accept myself.
I choose to breathe slow, smooth, and long. And I deeply and completely love, forgive, and accept myself.
and accept myself.
I choose to breathe slow, smooth,
smooth,
and long. And I deeply and completely love, forgive, and accept myself.
and accept myself.
Tap the beginning of eyebrow point and say slow breath.
Slow breath,
Tap the eye end point and say smooth breath.
slow breath,
Smooth breath.
smooth breath,
Below the eyes, tap and say long breath.
long breath,
Tap below the nose and say slow breath.
slow breath,
Tap in the chin groove and say smooth breath.
smooth breath,
Tap below the collarbone and say long breath.
long breath,
Tap below the armpits and say slow breath.
slow breath,
Tap on the lower ribs in front and say smooth breath.
smooth breath,
Tap on the thumbnail point and say long breath.
long breath,
Forefinger, tap and say slow breath.
slow breath,
Middle finger, similar point, smooth breath.
smooth breath,
Little finger, similar point, long breath.
long breath,
Karate chop. And I deeply and completely
and I deeply and completely
love,
love,
forgive,
forgive,
and accept myself.
and accept myself.
Now massage that last point, tender spot, as I said, on the left shoulder where you wear a pin, a badge or something. So massage that in rotational motion using the same 2 fingers. And while you do that, take a deep breath in. And then gently press and hold the point as you breathe out long from the mouth. So now, time for test again.
Ready?
Yes, test your breath and see what number would you give your breath now.
Audience, I have climbed up the ladder. What about you?
Okay.
Look for some.
I have shifted from 7 to 10. What about you?
Yeah. So I'm looking for some responses from the audience as well
Yes.
to see.
I know.
Put in a thumbs up if you feel there is a change.
Yes, change
You know.
in any which way. If there is a change, means the technique works for you. Why am I saying this? Because for some people, if they were having some pent up stress, which they were resisting, holding back, then this helps to release. So it is possible that their breathing number may dip, but it is a sign that the technique works for you, and you can remove the stress, or rather bring your mental state to a balanced state by using this technique. So if there is anybody going through something like this, I don't know, you may share my contact with them, and if necessary, that immediate help also, if they require, post the program, I can do that for them.
Thank you. In fact, yes, there are a lot of, everybody seems to have moved up.
Oh,
and climbed the ladder.
So
is
works
what
for
they
most
put
of
in.
them. Excellent,
Yes.
excellent.
Yeah. There's a comment here saying there is a change was very nice. I think I may have missed something though. Does all of it have to be in the left hand or either works?
No, either hand. It can comfortable, whatever is comfortable for you.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yes, Daisy will show. Yes, we will share the contact details with you towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
And yes, you can please get in touch with, ma'am, if you'd like to join sessions. Yeah.
Any other question at this point? I would like to take it, particularly regarding the technique, because they have just done.
Yes, I mean, we did this for breathing. You said this be applied to any emotional state. So can this technique be applied to, does it just only work on emotions, or would it also work, when you need a clarity of mind and you need to take a decision and things like that?
Right. I will again share my slide. When I do the workshop, this is just a tip of the iceberg kind of a list that people have experienced during the either 4D live workshop or a 16-hour workshop that I have often done, or even a 12-hour 2 months program. People have worked and overcome all these things. So you can see there are some emotions over here. Now something like poor memory and concentration also has been worked upon and successfully moved out of that state. Even physical things like headache, pain. I always tell my students who learn this, I said, having learned this, at least pain is one thing that you should never suffer. and particularly physical pain. Actually, it works for all the three types of pain. We are yoga students who talks about three tapa, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik, and Adi Devik. It helps you to maintain your balance in all the three types of pain. But physical pain, you don't have to suffer at all. I'll give you one recent thing that happened. I am very much dependent on my maid. I have bedridden parents. So this maid of mine one day in the morning got up and said, "Didi, मेरे को बहुत कमर में दर्द हो रहा है. You will have to give me 2-3 days leave. Whenever I get this backache, without 2-3 days, it doesn't get all right." I said, "All right, let's see." So, but she said, "Abhi to morning routine मैं कैसे जैसे manage करूँगी." She tied a belt, etc., and worked it. And when we were a little free from the morning routine after the breakfast, we both sat down. I said, "ठीक है, तेरे कमर के दर्द के लिए मैं तो बताती हूँ, एक बार करके देख." So I made her do this whole thing in Hindi. In 15 minutes flat. So we must have repeated it 2 or 3 times for her. In 15 minutes flat, she got up and she's moving and turning around and she's saying, "Ye gaya kahan?" And I didn't understand. वो बोलती है, "दर्द कहाँ गया?" It was so amazing. And the whole day, she was expecting it to come back. It didn't. The next day also, she's getting up and telling me, "Didi, nahi aaya." So pain, it is like that. So,
there is a comment here by Payush Agarwal saying, "Ma'am, while sitting, I was having a backache, but just now I noticed that it's gone."
yes. So it was due to some emotion. So breathing and emotions are connected, no? So that negative emotion changed to positive emotion. So breathing is a very good thing. There are people who cannot identify the emotion, no, but they are quite under it. I make them do just for the breathing then. And with the shift in breathing, they become available to themselves. You know, it's amazing to know the kind of awareness it raises about you, of the physical, of the mental and the emotional state. And later on, those who are in a higher spiritual journey also, I will talk only in an audience which is specially only for that. There have been proper shift you can experience.
Would really like to hear that, because this audience is an audience which is very spiritually inclined.
All right. Spiritually inclined, yes, but the terminology may differ. All the same, I will give it to you in Sankhya Yoga terms. That's the area that I am proficient in, or have some knowledge of at least. Even people who say have been practicing asanas and pranayam for prolonged period of time, they do meditation on a daily basis, and those kind of people also. Very often they get kind of stuck at a certain state, and for years that beyond this they are not reaching. That they have come from being able to, when you do 20 minutes meditation, the true meditation really happens only for 2-3 minutes. Yes. From 2-3 minutes, they may have reached up to 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And now for years, they are stuck at that 6-7 minutes. They are not progressing. By doing this, they become aware of which of the yama niyamas they are stuck in. They are able to work from there. Their asana practice improves by doing this. Like, particularly people notice this in a technique, in an asana like Yoga Mudra or Paschimottanasana asana, or in the backward asana, backward bending asana like Ushtrasana or Dhanurasana and all. It's more easily observable. They were not shifting, not because of any physical flexibility problem. The flexibility problem was because of a thought, a pattern, a belief, or a bad memory. So when they worked on, they're getting stuck at this, not progressing, we do tapping on that. And the awareness comes about some incident or some memory or whatever the thought pattern is. Then we work on that. And when that is worked upon, the change happens. They find without any additional effort, they are able to get into that asana position. So it's like that.
You know, I noticed that you missed one finger, the ring finger. May I ask why?
Yes, I know that's a common cognitive domain people. They can't bear it. That has to be solved first. Okay, let me answer that. What happens? Why is this finger called ring finger? Because you wear that wedding ring in that, right? Why is wedding ring worn over there? Because it's
the
said to be
heart
connected to the heart. है ना? दिल का
Right.
मामला है. In other words, it is feeling predominant. I told you we're working on emotion. And if I would use the ring finger right in the first demo class, and somebody who is really suffering from some bad emotional state, it might trigger very badly and may be uncontrollable. So it becomes extremely strong if you use the ring finger to begin with. And besides that, the tapping of the ring finger is not done at the same point. It's done differently. It's very, very powerful. So when I'm working one-on-one with people, I sometimes use that. I don't really need to use that, I find. So then there is a sandwich kind of an approach. So between the two rounds we did, first we did the acknowledgement of the negative, and then we chose the positive. Between those two, we use the ring finger. And it becomes very, very powerful and effective, but not until the client is absolutely clear. Yes, this is the problem. Very often what happens is we are so used to stating the problem in words other than what it really is. अब जैसे पैरों में दर्द हो रहा है, तो instead of saying कि मेरी ये नस खींच रही है या यहाँ पर ये pointed दर्द हो रहा है, हम कहेंगे मेरे को sciatica है. Now sciatica doesn't vibe with the body or the mind. वो technical word है, डॉक्टर ने बोला है. वो sciatica बोल के इधर टैप करोगे तो कोई असर नहीं होने वाला. But people don't get out of it. So then I use that and make them shift to their real feeling. Real feeling में ये भी चलेगा. Once, one gentleman came to me. And it was office hour. It should have been in office. Instead, he's sitting with me in the clinic. And when he walked in, and my first question to him was, so how are you feeling? What his reply was, he was so full of whatever anger that was there in him. And I could see that I will not get anything more from him. What do you think I did with him? We tapped. That was enough. He said, okay, even though I'm feeling grrr, and he went like that. So I deeply and completely love for him. We tapped on every point, grrr, grrr, like that. By the end of that round, he was able to speak. So it works because that is what he was feeling.
Right.
So you have to be that honest. And if you're honest, it works for you instantly.
In fact, there's a question here by Aarti Mehra saying that I didn't have pain, but somehow I cried towards the end of the exercise.
Yes.
Does that mean anything?
Yes, it means a lot. It means that something that you were holding got released. There are people who release it by crying, who release it by yawning, who release it by burping. They release by sweating. All this is release. something that you did not even know, did not clearly identify, you were not willing to acknowledge, or for whatever reason you were suppressing. But it was right up to the brim, so it had to go.
Right. Ma'am, should we do this exercise every day in the morning, or can it be done at any time? Or is there any particular time or place?
The most beautiful thing about this technique is that you can do it anytime, any number of times.
Following the same pattern of the sentence formation, is it?
The key technique is the same, except that like for breathing, what we did, we replace it with whatever we want to heal. And it can be anything. You can heal relationship. You can heal your negative money patterns. A lot of people have, like I had. A lot of people have this problem with that this person I cannot tolerate. Everything else is fine, but this person, if it comes, I will not go to this party and all. Things like, you know what? Once a friend of mine who had also learned this technique with me, we were both going by rickshaw somewhere, and we found that the traffic in front was so much that we may not reach in time, and we didn't want to be late for whatever reason. So what both of us happened to think of the same thing at the same time. We looked at each other. Let's do it. Sitting in the rickshaw, we both did this. That we want to reach, we chose to, that we are stuck in traffic and we want to reach in time. We replaced that. And after that, we just got into conversation. We forgot about all this. We reached in time. I don't know what happened. Whether the rickshaw man was very smart, or I don't know, the traffic cleared its way for us, but we reached in time. Silly things like this, we have used it. At least what we did was we stopped our mind from creating that block. Otherwise, negative thinking, we would have attracted it.
It manifested.
Yeah. We manifested. So we removed that.
Right.
So
do we have to do this
technique?
Right. Do we have to do this with our eyes closed, or can we do it even with the eyes open?
Please automatically just close when you're doing it. It is so relaxing, no? So just eyes droop. I generally find there are people say, I don't want to close. I said, don't close. Who is telling you to close? In fact, you need to look at me, no? Because you have not known which point, what I'm describing. So keep your eyes open. So some find very difficult to keep their eyes open. But
the other question is, why is it there's this sequence and these points that have been selected? You know,
okay. That is for me to give you a little background into the emotional freedom technique first. Emotional freedom technique is credited to Gary Craig from USA. And he was a life coach, practicing life coach. But he was also an acupressure specialist and NLP practitioner. By profession, he was all this, but by education, he was an engineer. So a very good combination that he was in. He said, as a life coach, I would be able to help out people. People would feel good also. They would have solved the problem. But 6 months down the line, they were either looking for another coach or they were back with me. And I would feel terribly bad. Okay, only for 6 months. And I always found, he said, that people had kind of gone back to their old ways gradually. And by 6 months, they were back from where they had come from. So I wanted to give them something that they can continue to do on their own and not allow themselves to slip down. Being an acupressure practitioner, he knew about the meridians and all, energy points and everything. So by trial and error, he came about these 12 points to tap on and some more key points that can be used for addressing the acknowledgement and the choice statement. The statements are also very carefully chosen words using NLP background. So these points, even people who practice Sujo, they will also tell you, anybody who's doing any of this kind of a healing, we use this even in our ancient yoga called Nyas Yoga. People, the Sandhya Vandan, those who do, they will recognize that there are certain points where they stimulate that point and say the mantra. This is exactly the same, a modern version of it. So these points, they stimulate more or less the entire viscera. Parasympathetic nervous system, those of you who understand a little bit of anatomy, physiology, is the system which is meant for calming down the body, bring about, what can I say, a balanced state, a homogeneous state in the body. Homeostasis, as it is referred to. So that homeostasis is brought about by tapping all these various points. And when you do it in this sequence, the rhythm and the flow of the whole body's energy is maintained.
Right. And just one last question.
Sure.
Why do we use a negative sentence and then turn it to positive?
One very popular EFT practitioner is Nick Otter. And Louis Hay is another common name that everyone knows.
Yes, of course.
Affirmation Queen, she's often called.
Right.
Now, Affirmation Queen was an interview with Nick Otter. And Nick asked this question to Louis Hay. And what he said was that you are an affirmation queen. People often tell me that why are you making us say the negative thing? What do you say about it? What do you think, Louis Hay answered? She said, what if there is some dirt lying there, and if you don't know it is dirt and you don't call it dirt, you will never work at removing it. So you have to know and recognize that, yes, this is bad, this is unwanted, this is negative, and this has to be removed. Now, an affirmation queen is saying that.
Right.
Okay. So this is a theoretical answer. Let me tell you my own personal experience over a period of time when I have been practicing this. I just explained to you how the release happens. When a certain issue is actually bothering me, the moment I make the acknowledgement statement, I find I more often than anything, I release by burping. The burping begins from the first statement that I'm making. Because now my body has got attuned to this thing that I don't even wait till the end. Like somebody has shared that at the end, they felt the eyes were wet. Yes, the body is still not used to this releasing. I am ready to release. So it happens right from the first statement. And sometimes I don't even need to complete this, another underlying issues. Another thing about this technique that it works on the uppermost first. So whatever is the uppermost issue, so what I find is right from the very intention statement, the uppermost issue is resolved. And while I'm still making my statement, all statements are not so simple as I just did. This is for the beginners. But these are very important. These have to be continuously used even later on. The statement when go into description of the entire event, description of the entire process that you are upset with, the situation that is bothering you, everything is covered. And I find that the real situation which lies underneath is now getting attended to and healed. So
So the negative sentence then turns to the positive.
Yeah, because even acknowledging the negative itself is half the work done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know, just like one of my clients, she used to always come and say, Didi, aaj ye wala kachra nikalne ka hai. She would always have certain patterns that she had in her life. For a year, she came twice a week and she was a changed person totally. I have yet to see somebody so devoted and dedicated to this technique. I will say she's responsible for making me a practitioner. So she was so determined, but I never intended to become a practitioner of EFT or BCT. My job, my thing was that I'll use it for yoga. But for yoga also now I find I have to teach it. So I've become a practitioner. And when I'm teaching, there are some people, they have severe issues. So I have to do one-on-one sessions with them.
Right.
It had to
How
go
often do you do? I mean, do we do this every day or multiple times in a day?
It is good to do it every day. In
Okay.
fact, I have a system by which at least after learning for 21 days, I make sure I provide support so that they do it. So once that neuro pathways is formed, I think everyone knows about 21 days and the neuro pathways that are formed. And then initially, I encourage them to look for what is it that is disturbing you in the day, and at least before going to sleep. Today's stress, deal with it today itself, not to go to sleep with it. Again, following Gary Craig's suggestion that people should not allow things to accumulate. You know what happens is all this negativity, हमको लगता है कि नहीं ये तो इतना तो manage हो जाएगा. I don't think I need to do anything about it. I can bear it. But it is causing negative situation in your body. Your energy is getting blocked. वो हम चला लेते हैं ना, वो भी सबसे ज्यादा खतरनाक काम करते हैं. So we must remove that negativity of today itself. And I'll tell you how minor it can be. Something as simple as, say, you were taking a nap in the afternoon and somebody rang the bell just when you were about to, and you get that one moment ka irritation. Even that one moment ka irritation causes release of adrenaline. And that much amount of adrenaline released in the body, your kidney takes 3 days to remove it.
Right.
And as long as adrenaline remains in the body, it causes havoc. It causes agitation. It causes stimulation. It causes excitement. It keeps your internal organs getting less blood and your muscles getting more blood. Because 3 jobs adrenaline does: fight, flight, or freeze. So all these organs are in that fight mode for those 3 days. And in 3 days, you don't get just only that much, no? दिन में 50 चीजें ऐसी करते हैं हम. छोटी सी चीज कि ये बुक मैंने यहाँ रखी थी, उधर से किसने हटाई, मुझे वहां नहीं मिली मेरे टाइम पे, गुस्सा आ गया. बाद में हमने अपने आप को शांत तो कर लिया, लेकिन गुस्सा किया. Even if it was this much, that little spurt is going to do its job. So nerves are constantly in, a vibrating state. I like the video that you have made to introduce this program. कि वो equilibrium, quiet state में ripples आ रहे. एक छोटा सा pebble फेंका, लेकिन कितना जाता है ना ripples. वो ripples को भी शांत होते कितना टाइम लगता है. हमारी बॉडी में तो मैं बता रही हूँ आपको 3 दिन लगता है. I'm a biology teacher, see, so it is coming to my aid like this. तो नेगेटिव तो इतना सभी पहचानना पहले तो जरूरी है. So when Patanjali says perverse thought, ये भी perverse है, क्योंकि प्रतिपक्ष भावना एक्सप्लेन करते हुए वो 3 कारण बताते हैं perverse thought के: anger, greed and delusion. So anything with even slightest, and the measure that he gives for anger, greed, delusion, or the perverse thought is mild, moderate, intense. And under each of these, mild is also of three types: mild, moderate, intense. Moderate is also three types: mild, moderate, intense. And intense is also three types: mild, moderate, intense. So it becomes 9. And each of these 9 are again mild, moderate, intense. And again. So you see the measure.
Right.
So even that slightest, mildest of the mildest of the mildest of the mildest need not happen to a yogi. If you are a spiritual practitioner, you have to be as sensitive. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, one of them describes it. It says, as sensitive, yogi is as sensitive as the retina of the eye to a thread of cotton wool. Retina is the most sensitive part in our body. And even a small thread of cotton wool is enough to hurt it. So you have to be that sensitive. You should be able to recognize this and remove it. So negative को जानना इतना जरूरी है. हम वैसे भी आम कहते हैं ना, अपने दोस्त को भले कम जानो, लेकिन दुश्मन को अच्छी तरह से जानना जरूरी है. तो उसकी पहचान बहुत आवश्यक है. So
right.
Then you can keep away from them.
Fabulous. And I think with this, I would really like to thank you, Suchitra ji.
Wow.
I
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Nice questions.
Yeah. And we really enjoyed the session, and so did the audience. I have shared Suchitra ji's number on the chat for those who'd like to get in touch with her, to further learn the technique. Please do. And thank you so much for such a wonderful session.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too. And hope to have many more.
Absolutely.
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you, dear audience. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Shubh
Good night,
Ratri,
everyone.
Sayonara, Khuda Hafiz. See you next week.